Hello, everyone. Welcome to your heavy metal episode of Losers Lunch, our weekly exploration in excellence. With our
jam that thing, man.
I knew you could play, bro, but wow.
when I used to have the hair and the earrings, it was.
I want pictures of that.
Yeah, we gotta get that.
Can we put pictures of that and then a post down below after we're done?
I knew he could play golf. I didn't know he could shred on the axe. That's pretty awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, you know what? Back in those days, we didn't have cameras, so like
good for you.
Pictures, all these pictures are sitting in like my mother's basement, but anyway, that was off Rust in Peace, Megadeth, a song called Holy Wars. Megadeth is probably my second favorite band. It's Van Halen and then either Megadeth or Faith No More. So there you go with that. Our very special guests, Mike and Matt from NEXA. We've been talking about it for a long time. This has been on this calendar for a couple of weeks. So anyone that's watching thinks that this is sort of like a gratuitous push for ratings because of some of the recent events. This has been on the calendar for a while. Before we get to what we're going to get to, let's just talk about the market really quick. And this week it is going to be really quick because there's really not a hell of a lot going on. We have a bunch of housing data this week. As I mentioned on the Market Minute, it wasn't great. There's more coming. We have market PMI. We have the ECB rate decision on Thursday before our markets open. Usually the presser is right after the open, or I should sort of say the pre-open, because you could start kind of pre-market at 8 o'clock. It's really all eyes, on the Fed. Just going back to last week's numbers and just to touch on them a bit. Retail sales was a little bit hotter than I would have expected, but I also, again, and this is not a shameless plug for the Market Minute, but I did touch on that in some other content. It's just, hey, when do you buy stuff? You buy it right before the summer and right before the holidays. So these numbers do generally get a little bit of a bump. And then, of course, CPI and PPI were a bit hot. But look, I'm just going to keep saying this. It's old news. We flashed it a couple weeks ago. CPI is a lagging indicator. There's a huge component of that is housing and rent. That's not going to go away overnight, even though we're starting to see prices moderate a little bit. And, look, we're fighting ghosts as far as I'm concerned. And you're going to see 225 before you see 350 again. I just can't see any way around it on the 10s. So, that being said, gents, how have you been?
Oh, been good, man. Been good.
Real good. Been, getting
looking forward to these rate increases that we're going to
get. Yeah. The another 75 is going to make cuts happen sooner than later.
I'm hearing 100 now, though.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to go there.
No, all right.
No, I don't.
You got a couple rounds of 75 in a row, maybe.
Yeah. Look, most of the speakers in the last week have said that they're willing to be fluid. Okay, so what I have found is that the July data historically can look bad, and if you line up year over year CPI, I think that July is the most likely month to miss. First, So yeah, if the data is what I think it might be over the next few weeks, you may even see a flinch in the next meeting. Look, gas prices are already coming down. I just saw somebody post down here where I am that they just filled up for under $100 for the first time. So look, it's happening. It's happening, and I think that the Fed's chasing some ghosts, and I keep saying to all the originators that I speak to, you should have patience about interest rates right now. You shouldn't have patience about the urgency of the opportunity. Now is the time to strike. So speaking of which, right, you guys have been producing quite a bit of content lately, and you just launched this new comp program, okay? And
I didn't know you were going to go here.
Yeah. So you just launched this new comp program, and rather than, because a question that I have on my mind, sort of is why, right? But rather than ask it in that way, my question to you is, I'm seeing a lot of content about value, right? And I thought that was a great post. And one of the things that we talk about ad nauseum on this program is, price and value are two different things, right? And it's sort of incumbent upon us in whatever our role is, whatever we do, to get the job done, to provide the value, for our employees, for our employers, for our colleagues, for our customers, for our counterparties, our vendors.
It has to come first, though. Value has to be before anything. Is a reality, right? Value has to be before price. Value has to be before money. Value has to be before compensation. You have to provide the value. You have to provide the value. It's like I hear loan officers tell realtors all the time, right? That hey, I got great rates, wonderful fast turn times, and my communication is impeccable. I'm like, everybody says that, though. Those are the prerequisites. You have to have that before you can offer anything, and you have to have the value before you can really do crazy things elsewhere. So.
Well, and I also think there's a misconception out there that you have to have one or the other, price or value, right? Like it has to be either or, but it really doesn't have to be either or. I mean, we're trying to create an environment where you can get it, where you have it all, right? And, there's been, yes, lately we've been talking more about value. You did bring up the comp plan that we unloaded, and, I think we're going to have to change this to winner's lunch pretty soon, especially after that. But but at the end of the day, you can have both, and I think that's what we want to stress to a lot of people out there is why not? Our LOs bring us value. Our loan officers come and they bring us value. Why not reward them with the compensation that they should receive, right? So that was a big thing behind this rollout that we did.
So let's digress, and I want to come back to this, but let's digress here for a second, okay? Because this is also a theme of past episodes, and something that I sort of really believe in is this sort of tireless pursuit of excellence. Okay, so here you guys are, the fastest growing company, right, in terms of loan officers, among other metrics, right? When's enough, right? Why are you worried about tomorrow? Why is it that, you are driven as hard as you're driven?
For me, it's I was told all my life I can't do certain things, and look, I wake up every morning wondering and scared to death, right, if today's the top. So I was wondering, like, who was the largest mortgage broker in history? I realized, and I found and did a lot of research and realized it was Carteret Mortgage back in the day, who had over just under 1,800, but 1,775 loan officers back in 2003. And we're not there yet. We're at 1,700, but we're almost there. But then I'm like, did he know that was the day when he hit it? Did he know that was the peak? And that scares the shit out of me every single day, right? And to us creating, people say, why are you making it better when you're already winning? Because, you've always got to be pushing yourself. You can't ever stop. And it's that pursuit of perfection that you talk about that just drives, at least me personally, obviously family and leaving a legacy. And I take the word legacy very seriously. But leaving a legacy is important to me, because one day I want to know what my great grandkids who never met grandpa are going to say about me, and that's really important to me, for whatever reason. I don't know why, but it rings in my head constantly.
Yeah, I think we've aligned our goals, Mike and I, from day one. And I think one thing that we absolutely despise is complacency, and feeling like, man, we did it. And one thing we don't do is we don't pat ourselves on the back. We don't, sit there and gloat and all that stuff. We're always pushing for something new, for something better. I mean, we firmly believe and follow our core value of, always seek to improve. And that's one thing that we're trying to live that example for everybody at NEXA Mortgage. So it's just, that's what we do. We strive to do more. We strive to get better, strive to provide more, because that's the role that we feel like we've been put in.
I think you'll like it, though. You'll appreciate this, Phil. Emmitt Smith, when he won the Super Bowl, he celebrated. We celebrate our wins here at NEXA. But the very next day, he was in the gym saying, we got more work to do now. We got to do it again now. Got to hit another goal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Same concept.
And those, look, I think it was Dirksen would famously say at one of the investment banks that I won't promote is, last month, was our best month, but this is a new month. And there is that fine line, right? There is that fine line between being satisfied but not comfortable, and I think that one of the reasons, and obviously in a former life, we did some business together. For those that don't know, before you were NEXA heads, you were EPMers, right? But
immediately before too.
Immediately, yeah.
Yeah. But we sort of really reconnected, or dare I say connected, back in October, here at my house and a golf event that we did. And, really since that day, I kind of see, hey, how many things that we're, mentally aligned on. And sometimes, driven people are misunderstood, and there's this sense that, hey, you're never happy, or, you're always looking at, the negatives and not the positives. But, iron sharpens iron, and nobody ever realized, that they were wrong until they were wrong. So how can you remain progressive? How can you remain forward thinking? How can you remain at the top, to your point, if you don't know that you're no longer at the top, or that you don't know where you stand, where number two, and whatever that is, in what any way, shape, or form. So I could tell you this, where I am in total alignment with that mindset, is I've always been driven more by the desire not to lose rather than to win.
Yeah, losing
100%.
sucks a lot more than winning is awesome.
Yeah.
And I've seen a bunch of content, and I think I re-storied it, or whatever you call it, on Instagram. A couple of the things that you said, but as well as most of the most successful folks appreciate the journey more than the destination. And I've said that over and over and over again, that like the hunt is really, in my career, has always been the best part of it. And you just take a moment to kind of bask in the glory of the success. And it's like, okay, what's next?
Well, it goes along the lines of like the guy that was given everything, right? If you had more money than anybody in the world, you could buy anything in this world you ever wanted to. The item that you buy doesn't mean as much to you if you didn't have to grind and work for it, right? It's like you say, it's the journey to get there that made it so appealing and takes so well once you finally did have it. Of course, then that's bask in your glory and it's time to move on to the next thing. But
yeah. One of the other things, talk to me about this. One of the other things that I also love about you guys is that you lead by example. You know, you both roll your sleeves up, get into it. Talk to me a little bit about that. Where does that come from? Why, you know, does that define how you lead? Is it automatic? Is it intentional?
no, it's instinctive. Look, people, we get, I mean, you're never going to question in a room with me whether or not I like or agree with you, right? I wear my emotions on my sleeve. I always have. I've never not been able to do it for whatever reason. It's just part of me. It's who I am, right? But doing what you say and saying what you do has always been important to me. And I think it comes from being just disappointed throughout life so many times that, and now it's come to a part where I just don't have time anymore to sit there and sugarcoat. I don't need to act like I'm somebody's friend. I would rather know that I'm their friend. And leading by example is just, it's actually easier. You don't have to keep track of your lies, in my opinion, is kind of my thing. And keeping track of lies is really hard to do. So
it's crazy for you to say that because Scott, who's watching, a buddy of mine who we talk about all the time, you have to be incredibly smart to be a liar. Because to cover all your tracks.
You call me dumb?
Yeah, you got to stand up. I've always said this. It's a lot harder to lie. Like Mike and I were talking about this a long time ago, where it's like when you said people that cheat all the time, right? Like people that cheat on things and cheat on the test and all that. It takes so much more work, so much more time that you could put that time and effort into doing the right thing. You're going to get better rewards. So yeah, I 100% agree. It's a lot harder to cheat and lie. That's for sure.
You know, I think that I can say this, you know, when you look at the spirit of willing to be wrong, of willing to be maybe even polarizing, of willing to speak your mind. I mean, look, I've been talking about this now for almost a year on this program. I think August something was our first episode is, you know, I can't make apologies for who I am, right? And the idea is if you're coming from a place of honesty, you're coming from a place of integrity, coming from a place of purity, you want to move the needle in a positive direction. Then if other people don't agree with that direction, either A, that's on them, or B, it's just not a good fit. And why would you want the noise of not having a good fit? Mm-hmm. You know, momentum is such an important, integral part of success, is that when you're fighting this noise, and we talk about it a lot in terms of culture, it's the noise can be incredibly destructive.
I'll never lose respect for a person who's honest. Like if you don't like me or we're not a good fit,
Eddie,
be honest. Tell me up front. Eddie's here. How you doing, Eddie? Be honest. Tell me. Like I'll respect you a lot more. Like having different opinions is what's great about society, about us as human beings. So if somebody's honest and they don't like me, they don't want to jump on board with what we're doing, tell me right up front, and I'll have a lot more respect for it, because our paths could cross later on down the road. It could be a different project that comes up, something else. Always leave the door open type sort of thing. But just be honest. That's one thing that me and Mike have always put a premium on.
I struggle with this actually on a daily basis. And I don't know, maybe I wasn't given enough attention as a child, but I struggle very, and I'm not interested in being fixed, by the way. People like, let me help fix you. Like, I enjoy being broken. I'm okay with it. But I do struggle every day with the attention that NEXA now gets, with the platform that we now have, and the people that I need to say goodbye to, right? This desire to fit in, yet not actually fitting in certain things. And I struggle with saying, you know what, I need to say goodbye to this, or let this thing go, and let the noise, as you express, right? And just say that I don't need that. For whatever reason, I attract myself to it, but and I get on keyboard warrior and go crazy. But it's part of who I am, and we'll see where it takes me. So.
Well, in terms of being different and not wanting to be fixed, in your words, is, one of the core drivers of a successful business is differentiation, right? Mm-hmm. And there are so many times where, as your business gets bigger and bigger, there's this push to homogenize yourself. We got to be in the middle of the road, and we got to be all things to all people. And you kind of stop doing the things that got you in that position to begin with. It's like prevent defense.
Right. I think I did a good job not going down that road, though. I think I did a pretty good job.
Don't give up the big play, but you give up a touchdown.
Right. No, it's exactly right. And right. I think that's a good lesson maybe for folks that are watching as you growing your business, whatever that might mean to you, is don't stop being yourself, because you've had some people who are detractors. Because look, it's always it's easier for the average person to pull other people down than pull themselves up. To me, I just don't want to hear about. I try to stay off Twitter. Like, that's the one place I just sort of rant about the New York.
Try to get Mike off of Facebook, but that didn't work.
It's just you get tired of sort of hearing opinions, and even though I'm not completely math based in my decision making, there is that element of math, and it's just sort of like, hey, this stuff is binary. You're either right or you're wrong in most scenarios. There's not a lot of gray area in certain things. Did this work or didn't it? If it worked, do it more. If it didn't, stop doing it. Don't care what your emotions are about it. What you're doing is working. To stop doing it is an emotional reaction, not a logical one. Speaking, excuse me, about emotion, let's. Very good point there, Kev. Let's turn a little bit, and we're really just talking more about personality, relationship, things of that nature to this point. I think that's also a driver in how the three of us sort of operate, that we have a commonality about. Because like the blocking and tackling, I mentioned Scott too, who runs a title company, and he always talks about, no one asks me, how do I title, right? You're buying the person, right? But when you talk about the emotion, right now is an incredibly emotional period of time for the mortgage industry. We're coming off, you think about it, Q4 was a record quarter for a lot of companies, and Q2 might be their worst month ever, in 6 months. So there's a lot of emotion around that. What are you guys doing to try to insulate NEXA a bit? Or dare I say, even use that emotion as a catalyst for growth right now?
Well, with us, it's funny because I heard a CEO of a well-known mortgage banker that we won't name go out and say that we're going to capture market share, and I'm like, no, you're not going to capture market share, and then they're actually laying off by the thousands, and but NEXA is capturing market share. And that's our movement to it, because like we obviously believe strongly in the wholesale channel. What our partnership with Equity Prime and the wholesale channel to us is powerful, right? When Matt and I were both at Equity Prime, we are able to do more with you guys as partners in the wholesale channel than we were able to accomplish as Matt and I, directly at the time, right? But that's not for everybody. I get that. But it's important to us in the wholesale channel that to us it's the growth right now. Mm-hmm. We are capitalizing. Now listen, we have loan officers that are hurting like everybody, and we tried to tell them over a year ago. We drilled this home purchases, and we were always about 70% purchase business, but a lot of loan officers didn't listen. And then even if you're at 70%, some people losing that 30% of their business really hurts. But we are not down really at all. I think we were down 4% last month was our down number. And so we keep growing. Now, don't get me wrong, we're doing it because we're attracting loan officers into the wholesale channel, right, into the broker network. So that's how it is that we're growing. And a lot of our loan officers are actually taking advantage of that very same thing. So that's what we're saying. Listen, guys, it's going to be a tough summer, right? It's going to be tough into the winter. And maybe it gets better first quarter, second quarter next year. You get something a little bit better. But it's time to capitalize on that, on the market share. And that's what we're really pushing for. We're not pushing just to stay afloat. We're pushing to really grind it and drive forward.
Well, and we've always had two main philosophies, right? And it remains true to this day, even from day one when we started NEXA: growth and support. Like, those are the two things that we are constantly focused on. How can we grow more? How can we get bigger? And how can we provide more support to our loan officers, more tools? If you could give them more tools in their toolbox to go out and win more deals, then they're going to naturally win, right? And we empower them to run their business the way they want to. So growth and support are our two biggest rocks, boulders, if you want to call it that. That's what
we grow based on the support, is the reality, though, too. So I almost argue that support is our number one attribution, because we're just so big on it. Matt and I introduced our Realtors Unplugged this year, right, to help loan officers who aren't good at it to get realtor business, and our networking events, right? Looking forward to come out and seeing you guys in a couple weeks. So
awesome. Two more things I want to explore, and then we'll begin to wrap it up, because I know that you have a hard stop coming up here. Is you said two things there. One is your time at EPM, and let's just put this to the back of our minds. I want to explore this. You guys are great at what you do. We're great at what we do, yet it didn't work out in the way it was constructed at the time. There's a lesson to be learned there, right? There's a lesson that sometimes 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2 or doesn't equal 3. Sometimes I'll say 1 + 1 = 3. So, in that regard, it's like, it's okay. We could be friends. Okay.
Right.
Maybe nobody's to blame. Maybe it's timing. Maybe it's vision. So that's something. The other thing about it is, you talked about sort of past successes and loan officers didn't listen. And, how often, and it's very easily said, right? Do what works, stop doing what doesn't work. Yet, oftentimes we don't listen to that. Two really easy principles. And so for me, when I look back at this conversation, we talk about what are some really time-tested components of success. Staying sharp, never being comfortable, right? Always looking to deliver value, always looking to, and I'm going to say it this way, fire your worst. And thanks for the contribution, Brandon. Absolutely. In that idea of wanting to be true to yourself and picking a lane, essentially you're firing your worst customers. One of the 7 habits of highly successful people, right? Figuring out what works and keep doing it, avoiding what doesn't work. I mean, these are like really, really easy things to do, but also easy things to forget about. What are some things off the top of your mind, both of you, that you might add to that as keys to success?
To use the Equity Prime, relationship as a great example, by the way, don't burn bridges. It might not be the fit today, but you never know what next year brings, what next month brings, right? Look, I know I've got a lot of online antics going on with a certain individual, and I would like that to get better. I really would, right? Because that could actually turn into something very strong for the entire community in a long, in 6 months from now, next quarter, next year, whatever the case may be. I don't want anybody to feel like a bridge is utterly burned, chopped down, and we dug out the connecting dirt that connected that bridge, right? I want to be able to use that bridge down the road. Sometimes, communication needs to fix things, but don't ever burn a bridge, especially in business, because relationships are strong. There are some bridges that I felt I burned that I kind of regret. And I'd like to rebuild those bridges, and I'm working on that. But don't ever burn bridges, because you never know. Like with Equity Prime and us, what a great partnership that it turned out to be, even though it didn't work out before. So
yeah, I'd say 100% echoing that. I mean, that's the first lesson when I first started in mortgages. That's the first lesson I got was it's a small community. Don't burn bridges, you know, and especially, you know, in the mortgage industry itself, you know, when you're dealing with realtor relationships, you can have a bad transaction. That doesn't mean that the relationship's broken, that you can't fix it down the road. So that to me is huge. The other thing I would have to say is be confident in your approach. Like somebody had mentioned that before, like, you know, being fearless. When you have fear, that's when you start to focus on the things that aren't working, right? When you have fear. But when you're confident and you're focusing on things that do work, you put more into that. You invest more into that, more equity into that. And I think that ultimately is what's going to make you more successful. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, that's all. You know, in the first 10 years of my career, I had 5 jobs for 2 people. So when you talk about not burning bridges, again, resonates with me. It also tells me another story is that in this industry, we never seem to learn our lesson, because the reason it was 5 different jobs for 2 different people is because companies kept going out of business and whatnot that I was originating for. And it's like, Jesus Christ, when are we going to ever figure this the fuck out? You know, what? And dude, and isn't that really, it comes back to kind of the first point that we were making and that you guys made is when you're, and I hate to use the word worry because I don't think that that's the word that we are really saying here, but when you're worried about failure, right? You're staying sharp, you're staying on the edge, and rather than obsessing about it. It's something that Eddie and I talk about all the time. When a commonality that he and I have is that we've been dealt probably just as many setbacks in our careers as just about anyone. And we've used those setbacks as a catalyst, that chip on the shoulder you talk about. How many times I or he or we've been told, no, you can't. And there are so many folks that we know, that we even love, that have used those setbacks to create the ultimate setback. I mean, they're just obsessed with the past rather than driven by it.
Failure is the best education I believe that somebody can have. I can't tell you how many times I failed in business, how many I tried to create a mortgage company, a branching network, and it failed at it, right? Just never quitting is important there. But that fear of what it feels like has to stay there so I can focus on trying to really make sure I learn from those past mistakes.
Yeah, you're either winning or you're learning, right? I don't ever look at it as losing. I always take something from a setback that I learn and implement on something going forward. So
some of the weakest individuals, I have to say, that I've found in business are the ones that when folks like us, and I catch heat for this, right? Oh, you know, you always think you're right, or you're always trying to sort of impose your will on a situation. And what I have to keep reminding them is wisdom and intelligence are 2 different things. You know, and Steve Jobs talked about this ad nauseum is, you know, he had certain scars to be able to talk intelligently about something. Most of the time when I'm pushing an agenda, I'm pushing it because I know I've already taken those lumps. Why do we want to be so stupid as to take them again? It's not because I know better because I'm smart.
Learned.
I know better because I learned.
Yeah.
And so I would say this is a big takeaway for the viewership. Instead of when someone who's had success sort of tries to shepherd you towards a decision, let's say, don't put up the defense mechanism of, oh, you know, he or she is a know-it-all. Or no, it's because they have the scars that prove their position right. So, Mike, to be respectful of your time, we probably need to start winding it up here. Guys, sort of the floor is yours. Anything else you want to discuss? Any questions you have? Any thoughts that you think we should wrap up with?
I'll just leave it with, you know, we're going back onto the value, right? Everything's about value. And I love today's market is tough and really hard on a lot of loan officers, but it's the value that really shines through right now. And it's interesting to see that in today's market, it's the loan officers who are providing the most valuable to their consumers, they're not complaining about this market. They're still doing loans. They're still doing business. They've always provided that extreme value. And the companies who are going to continue to provide their value, to their base, are going to continue to thrive, right? There's no doubt in my mind, Equity Prime, the value that you guys add to the entire NEXA nation, right? That relationship will continue to thrive even through a hard time. So, but you got to think about that value before you need it. You got to have that value ahead of time. You got to be thinking about it into the future. So,
yeah. And I would say one thing that's always rung true, and I think about it every day, is evolve or die. And that's the one thing that, we are constantly focused on is how are we going to make it better? How do we change it? How do we build a business for the future? Our past accolades are great and that's awesome. We'll pat ourselves on the back every now and then, but how do we keep driving it forward so that it's bulletproof in the future, right? So evolve or die is one of those things that always comes to mind. So when you talk about how do we keep making changes or why do we keep making changes, where's the thirst for it? The thirst is to keep going, right? To keep building something better. Tomorrow is going to be a better day than today, right? If you got to believe that every day when you go out. So tomorrow is going to be a better day, but I have to make it a better day, right? So in order to do that, I got to keep moving forward. I got to keep punching. That's what I think of.
Look, I've said this before, and I probably will say it again at our broker event, next Thursday, or although technically it's Friday, although we arrive on Thursday. By the way, folks, if you're not coming, check it out. Jenna put a link, something like that. The EPM event is going to be awesome. But I've said this before. MySpace never saw Facebook coming. Blockbuster. Well, technically, Blockbuster did sort of see.
Yeah, they had an offer.
Netflix, they did, yeah.
They were too stupid. And that's another thing, is like, you're never as good as you think you are, right? There's always a bigger fish. There's always somebody that's lining you up.
And God forbid the day that you are.
Yeah.
Right.
Because then where's the push?
Right.
You settle in.
The journey is better than the destination.
100%.
The most successful people I've ever met all agree. I love it. You're exactly right, dude. Obstacles are excuses for losers and opportunities for winners. Period.
100.
Are you willing to do what it takes? Are you willing to put your own emotions, egos? I love Fidel, by the way. We talk every week. Hey, brother. I love the Shocker.
I love him too. He's awesome.
Yeah. He has a Jersey Shore-like blowout.
He cuts off the hair on his
video. You can't cut off the blowout, Fidel.
Right? You can't cut off the.
We don't want to see your neck. We want to see the blowout. We got a fist pump. Come on, we're Snooki. But yeah, it's awesome, guys. Can't wait to see you and catch up. Thanks for your time. Always love it. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep crushing it. Eddie and I are going to build that olive branch to Anthony. That's going to be our contribution to
next week will be interesting, man. Everybody should come out to Equity Prime because Anthony and I will be in the same room.
I'm bringing down cigars. I'm going to bring up a bottle of wine, okay? And
I'll just grab the popcorn.
Get this shit done.
Love you, man.
All right. See you guys.
See you,
Until next time, everybody, thank you. NEXA Nation, we love you. Mike and Matt, you're the best.
All right, man. Take it easy, guys.